In this video, let's talk about one of the biggest mysteries in the Zootopia franchise, Nick Wilde's parents. The movies barely talk about them at all. In fact, the only parent who is even mentioned or shown in any way is Nick's mother, and that's about it. Because of that, there are still a lot of questions surrounding Nick's family, what happened to them, whether they're still alive, and what their lives were actually like. So let's take a closer look at everything we know. Let's start with his mother, Mrs. Wilde. Even though she only appears briefly during the emotional flashback that tells Nick's backstory, her role is actually very important. We never get to see her face since she's only shown from the neck down, but the little bit we do see tells us a lot about the kind of parent she was. She is portrayed as a deeply caring and hardworking mother who genuinely wanted the best for her son. One of the clearest examples of this is when she works hard to buy Nick the Junior Ranger Scout's uniform that he always wanted. Money was clearly tight, yet she still scraped together enough to make it happen because she knew how much it meant to him. That small moment says a lot about her character. She wasn't neglectful, she wasn't abusive, and she wasn't responsible for the cynical person Nick eventually became. In fact, it was the complete opposite. She loved her son very much and wanted to see him happy. What's also interesting is that it has been confirmed that Mrs. Wilde is still alive. She isn't dead, and she still lives in the exact same apartment that we see during Nick's childhood flashback. We never get to see Nick reunite with her on screen, which is surprising considering how important she was in his early life, but as far as the franchise is concerned, she's still there. So when discussing Nick's family, his mother remains one of the few relatives whose fate is actually known. When it comes to Nick's father, Mr. Wilde, things become much more mysterious. Unlike his mother, he doesn't appear in the final version of the movie at all. He's never shown, never mentioned, and the film gives us absolutely no information about him. However, if we look at the earlier versions of Zootopia that were eventually scrapped, we find that his father originally had a much larger role in Nick's backstory. Back when the movie had a much darker storyline and predators were forced to wear tame collars, Nick's father was named John Wilde. According to production notes, he dreamed of opening a suit shop called Wilde & Sons Zootopia. It was a goal he was passionate about, and he tried to make it a reality by applying for a bank loan to fund the business. Unfortunately, because he was a fox, the bank rejected his application purely out of prejudice. His dream was crushed before it ever had a chance to succeed. However, all of that changed when Disney completely reworked the film. The story became lighter, the focus shifted more toward Judy's journey, and many elements from the darker draft were removed. As a result, Nick's father was erased from the story entirely. Instead of building Nick's trauma around his father's failed dream and the prejudice his family faced, the final film streamlined everything into the Ranger Scouts incident, which became the defining moment of Nick's childhood. Because of that decision, Mr. Wilde remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the series. We know his mother is still alive, but the final version of Zootopia gives us no information about his father, leaving people to wonder what happened to him and whether he is still alive somewhere in the world of Zootopia. There has never been any official confirmation about what happened to him, where he is, or even why he and Mrs. Wilde are no longer together. That's why so many theories have appeared over the years, but the truth is that none of them are confirmed because the film simply hasn't given us enough information. The only thing we know for sure is that Nick's father existed at some point during the movie's development before being completely removed from the final version of the story. Once Disney rewrote the film, all information about him disappeared along with the character himself. One possibility is that Mrs. Wilde raised Nick by herself for his entire life. Another possibility is that Nick's father was around during part of his childhood and later separated from Mrs. Wilde for reasons we still don't know. Both scenarios are possible because the movies never provide any details that would confirm one over the other. Because of that, some people believe he could finally appear in the third film. If the filmmakers decide to explore Nick's family life in more depth, his father would be one of the most obvious places to start. After all, Nick has become one of the franchise's most important characters, yet we still know almost nothing about the family that raised him. At the same time, it would also be really interesting to see Nick interact with his mother again. We know she's still alive, but we've never actually seen them reunite on screen. We've never seen Nick visit her, have a conversation with her, or even mention her in the present day. The most likely reason is simply that the story never had enough time to explore that side of Nick's life. During Nick's childhood flashback, she's only shown from the neck down, so despite being one of the most important figures in his life, we've never actually seen what she looks like. Hopefully, future movies will explore these unanswered questions because Nick's family remains one of the least explored parts of his story.